At the beginning, a girl kissed a boy, and the boy thought that he had been kissed by a figure whose beauty was hard to describe with words. A girl with unparalleled beauty. The girl was blushing hard and breathing heavily. He wondered how something like this could happen on the very first day of the high school entrance ceremony. There was a sign that read Saginomiya Private High School. He questioned why, without hesitation, such a beauty would kiss him right in front of the school building. He thought that if he started asking questions, there would be no end to them. That was how sudden their meeting had been. The boy then introduced himself in thought, saying his name was Satou Rei. He described himself as having an ordinary appearance and average height, with no special talents, no female friends, and never having had a girlfriend. That was the kind of person he was, in short, very ordinary. Yet here he was, kissing a girl in front of the school building. In his mind he emphasized that they had never met before. Rei pushed the girl away with an embarrassed hi, while blushing. The girl looked stunned, then grabbed his hand and introduced herself as Tsukinami Senri. She told him she didn't have time to talk about it right now, but from that moment on, he should just follow whatever she said. He reacted with a tense, but she kept holding his hand. Turning around, still holding on to him, Senri introduced him to someone, declaring, "This is my boyfriend." Rei responded with a shocked, "Huh?" And she added, "Right, darling." Rei thought in disbelief, "Darling." Another girl laughed at that and said, "Your boyfriend, you say?" Rei noticed that another cute girl had appeared and blushed. Senri's face turned annoyed. The other girl remarked that the man seemed troubled, in a mocking tone. Senri's face turned angry as she insisted that, of course he would be, after all, they had been keeping their relationship a secret, so it must have been shocking if she suddenly revealed it in public. Rei thought to himself that they had never even met before. Senri smiled and agreed with herself, saying, "Right." Rei noticed the other girl seemed somewhat damaged by that statement. Senri continued, saying they were very close, so lovey-dovey, right? Rei hesitated with an, no, but Senri gripped his hand tighter mid-sentence. Rei screamed in surprise. Senri, still gripping his hand, asked again, this time with an angry, strained smile, if they were lovey-dovey, right? The other girl, breathing heavily, dismissed it as nonsense. She then glanced at the time and remarked, "Oh my, it's already this late." Senri asked if she was running away, to which the other girl snapped back, "That's not true. It's just that the entrance ceremony will start soon. I can't be helped, right? Let's talk more about him later." "Well, it's probably all a lie anyway," Senri angrily insisted. It's not a lie." The other girl retorted that even if it were true, she wouldn't choose such a weak person, adding that not many people would want to be Tsukinami's boyfriend. Rei thought aloud that it was rude to him. Senri gave an annoyed ugh while still holding his hand. The other girl then began walking away, saying, "Well then, both of you, I'll excuse myself. I hope you will have a good school life. Although I'm not satisfied, we'll continue this later." Senri dismissed her with, "Whatever you want." The girl replied, "Then, this match will be concluded as a draw," and walked off. Senri laughed to herself with her head down. Rei asked what it meant by a draw, but Senri suddenly screamed in frustration. Rei was startled and asked what was wrong when he heard a crack. He looked and saw that his arm was being bent backward, prompting him to scream, "My arm!" Senri demanded to know why it was a draw, shouting that the other girl didn't even have a boyfriend. Rei tried to speak, but Senri, still holding his arm, told him to please understand a bit. If a cute girl wanted to be his girlfriend, he should agree immediately, even if it was a lie. Rei shouted back that he understood but told her to let go of his arm first. Senri blinked and asked, "Arm? Before letting go and apologizing with a smile. Then she looked at her watch and exclaimed, "I'm late for the entrance ceremony." Rei protested, still holding his sore arm, but Senri grabbed his hand again and said, "Come on, you're coming too." As they ran, she suddenly asked what his name was, saying he hadn't told her yet. Rei, still tense, replied, "My name? It's Satou Rei." Senri repeated his name several times with a blush, which made him blush as well until he reminded himself that she had kissed him earlier. She then let go of his hand, turned away, and said she had memorized it. Running ahead, she called back, "Then, after the guidance is over, let's meet here again," winking and smiling. Rei, stunned, could only manage an She ran off, saying she would be there, and Rei started to ask why she was running away, but she shouted that if he didn't hurry, he'd be late. Rei was left standing, wondering what was going on. Looking at the hand she had held, he ran toward the school, thinking that she was a mysterious girl involved in a mysterious battle, and that if he saw her again, he would try to avoid her as much as possible. He reflected on Saginomiya Private High School, one of the most prestigious high schools in Japan, where upper-class people gathered. The campus had famous boutiques, cafes, and other entertainment venues, along with high-class dormitories complete with food, clothing, and housing. Standing in line inside the hall, Rei thought about how he had been scouted and accepted into such a school. A few years ago, the school had begun recruiting talented individuals with free tuition, and he had been lucky to be chosen. He thought that while he believed he had no special talent, perhaps he actually had a surprising one. As he looked around, he saw a hand waving and heard a cheerful hi. It was Senri, just 3 rows in front of him. He thought to himself, "You're kidding me." Out of all places, he turned his head away, determined to ignore her. A voice announced that the entrance ceremony for the 15th class of students would begin and asked everyone to pay their respects. The students bowed, and the headmaster appeared a stunning beauty with a straight expression. Standing at the podium, she introduced herself as Saginomiya Yukari, the 5th-generation headmaster of the school and chairman of the Saginomiya Group, the largest company in Japan since the Meiji era. Before explaining the school's approach, she introduced the 3 principles of their education: vanity, self-centeredness, and heaven and earth. Rei wondered what era of Yankee culture this was from. Yukari says, "You are the elite and the chosen ones. We, the people standing at the top, must remain calm and noble at all times, and, like forging steel into a sword, our school also has a long and well-known history, which is mounting that has been done since a long time ago." She says this with a proud face. Rei thinks, what'd she say? This is a school, right? And what's with the applause? With a tense face, Rei sees Senri and thinks, Tsukinami too, why does she seem to be proud of it? Yukari continues, "And from that mounting, you guys will prove that you're above and superior to anyone else. It can be proven through grades, appearance, or the ornament you wear, because people are always comparing themselves to one another. Prove your status." This is embodied in our school's unique evaluation system. The banner behind her reads "Mounting Battle" as she speaks with a proud expression. Rei's face is tense as she thinks, what a disgraceful battle. Yukari says, "Mounting is a method given by the gods that even dogs and monkeys know how to do. Mounting without using force like an animal is believed to have originated from Mesopotamia, the oldest civilization in the world. At least, that's what you learnt in middle school history lessons." She wears a playful expression. Rei thinks, "Though I've never learnt it before." Yukari says, "Then," and puts something on her wrist. Rei thinks that, when she finishes putting it on, Yukari raises her hand and says, "This is a mounter. Our group has recently developed a device that can measure the flow of emotions." Rei thinks, "No, why's the name so lame?" with a shocked face. Yukari continues, "This device can measure parameters such as sweating, heart rate, and pulse rate. Then, by combining these measurements, we can assess psychological damage using a special formula. In a mounting battle, a mounter determines the winner and the loser." Rei looks at the band and thinks, "Rich high schools are truly different. To make something like this from scratch. I mean, what's the purpose of using a tool like this?" Yukari says, "Then, 3 days starting today." She speaks with a proud face. We see Rei, Senri, and a blurred girl's face as Yukari says, "The new first graders must do a battle to determine their class." A boy fixes his glasses. Rei is shocked and stunned, thinking, "You can't be serious. The class is decided by mounting?" Senri makes a proud face. Yukari says, "The light shining on the mounter." Suddenly, Rei's phone rings. Yukari says, "It's called the symbol of proof. For starters, you guys will be given 3 symbols of proof. Then, you will compete with each other until you collect up to 10 symbols of proof before the time runs out. Only those who can collect 10 symbols of proof can participate in the tournament. Whoever wins first place will represent the S class, which is the top class, and will receive status and honor. That concludes my explanation about the battle. I wish you good luck." She starts to walk away. Rei thinks, already finished. Yukari notices someone saying, and sees a boy raising his hand in the crowd. The boy says, "The specific battle methods, you haven't explained them yet." With an angry face, Yukari says, "Ha," then adds, "I can't believe that there's still a person who can't even think of something on his own." The boy says, "However, it is irresponsible to start without explaining the rules." Yukari says, "Young people today are always relying on others. When I was young, I used to think and find the solution by myself. Meanwhile, all you guys can do is whine and rely on others to do it for you." With a mocking face, she adds, "This is why young people these days." The boy is shocked and, with a tense face, says, "However," Yukari stands there and says, "All right, I'm the winner." She stands like a boss on a mountain while the boy is on the ground. He says, Yukari says, "All right, does anyone know which part of that thing is the mounting?" Rei thinks, what kind of question is that all of a sudden? How can anyone understand this? Everyone behind Rei raises their hands. Rei thinks, oi, oi, someone please tell me this is only a bad dream. Yukari says, I see, many students here have done their preparation. Well then, the girl over there, explain. Rei thinks, no way. She sees it's Senri and says, impossible. Senri walks on stage. Rei thinks, what? Tsukinami, or whatever she's called, is going to explain. On the mic, Senri says, these are taking advantage of differences in position and age. This is the mounting method of an arrogant and selfish boss. Yukari says, who? Rei thinks, what do you mean by who? I don't understand it at all, with a surprised face. Senri says, the winner of this battle will be the headmaster. No matter how much the students fight, the opponent is the headmaster. She'll use her experience and position for mounting the headmaster. Yukari says, I can't believe that there's still a person who can't even think of something on his own. Senri says, by using the words irresponsible to start without explaining the rules as his response. She shared her experience by saying, when I was young, and closed the comment by saying, this is why young people these days. She smiles. The boy shakes with a tense face. Senri says, it's an old-fashioned and outdated way of thinking. What era are you from? It's an old-fashioned and outdated way of thinking. If you countered it like this, you could have managed to get by. Yukari seems damaged and says, ugh. Senri says, the way you speak without knowing what you're talking about. It was very cool, with a smile. The boy's face is tense. Rei thinks, what's this? It's unpleasant. Yukari says, it's perfect. With a tense face, Rei thinks, Yukari says, it's been a long time since I became a headmaster. There was not a single student who could answer this many questions so perfectly before. I see. I recognize that face. You're from the Tsukinami family, aren't you? An interesting student has arrived. Senri gives a scary smile. Rei thinks, what's this? Yukari says, okay, you can go back. Everyone, give your applause. Senri walks down. Some people say, I don't think I can win against her. Others say, isn't she very cute? Rei's face is soulless as students make way for Senri to walk. Rei thinks, this. Am I the crazy one or? As she walks, Rei thinks, by any chance, I. Then he sees Senri's face close to his. He is shocked as she smiles at him, then turns and leaves. Rei watches her leave with a shocked expression, thinking, I think that I might have gotten into a very bad school. Yukari announced that she would explain the rules again. She said there were 5 classes ranging from S to D, and that everyone needed to gather the symbols of proof on the mounter from 3 to 10. This, she said, would decide who would represent the S class. She concluded with, that's it, dismissed. Rei was on the ground with a tense face, thinking aloud that even so, the people there were gathered from rich families all over the world, and that there was no way he could win against people like them. He sighed and muttered that it was tiresome. Suddenly, someone from behind called out, hey, you over there. Rei turned and saw a girl with short black hair waving at him with a smile. He thought, Q, and with a slight blush asked what she wanted. She smiled and told him not to be so frightened, asking if they were in the same grade. Rei thought, so cute. She then asked if he was the scouted student, and Rei admitted he was but hesitated. She asked what was wrong, and Rei explained with a sad face that he was just a little confused about the mounting and even the mounting battles. She laughed lightly and said she would teach him a few things. She explained that there was a history to it. While the main building of Saginomiya Private High School was old, its facilities and education were very up to date, so it should be a good motivation. Rei replied that it was amazing and thanked her for sharing in detail. She told him not to mind it. Rei then asked if she needed something from him, to which she teased, so I'm not supposed to talk to you unless I need something. Rei quickly denied meaning that, but she continued, saying it was annoying if she talked to him suddenly. Rei's face grew tense, and she explained that since they were in the same year, she was wondering if they could be friends. Blushing, Rei stammered, friends. She asked if she couldn't, and Rei quickly said it wasn't that she couldn't. She smiled, calling his reaction cute, and suggested they get along well. Rei thought excitedly that it was his first time having a female friend, and then said that if she didn't mind someone like him, she interrupted, asking why he thought so low of himself. Rei laughed awkwardly, but she continued, saying that being a scouted student must have been hard. She stopped walking, and as Rei moved ahead, she commented aloud, poor, with no particular talent, I wonder how they'll fight in such an environment. Rei looked back in surprise, and she quickly apologized, saying it was a pure question. She said that after talking to him for a while, she could tell he was going to have a hard time. She then revealed that she was just the daughter of an entrepreneur from a company making around 150 million yen in profit, and that there were still many more great people out there. Rei reacted with shock at the amount. She smiled and said that as his first friend, she would give him some advice. If he didn't work harder, nobody would be friends with an ordinary guy like him. She assured him she wasn't like that and said she was a bit odd herself. Rei thought to himself, "No, I didn't ask though." While she continued speaking, Rei thought, I don't understand at all. How do I get away naturally? For now, let's say something and leave." He turned, waved, and said he was going to take his leave. She stopped him, suggesting they go around the school building together. Rei declined with a smile, claiming that due to his religion, he had to eat sautéed game strategy books at that time of day. He thought to himself, what kind of excuse am I making? And ran away. She looked confused, and Rei called back, "See you then." Suddenly, Rei's headband rang. He looked at it and saw it displayed. Winner, Sao Rika. Loser, Satou Rei. Rei's face tensed as he exclaimed, "Whoa, what the hell is this?" The girl's voice came from behind, asking seriously how he was planning to fight like that. Rei turned toward her with a tense face, saying, "Don't tell me this." She smirked and confirmed it was a mounting battle. Rei panicked, thinking she had been targeting him from the beginning. She explained that a mounting battle was a mental battle. When one ran away, they were considered mentally affected. She told him to look at his mount. Rei checked his headband and thought in horror that only 2 proofs were left. He shouted that it wasn't fair to do a surprise attack like that. She ran off, calling out happily that she got one right off the bat and that aiming for a scouted student was an easy win. Rei chased, shouting for her to wait. His band rang again. She turned with a grin and said she was happy he had given her one more point. Rei looked at his band in shock, which now read, Saginomiya Rika versus Satou Rei, remaining MP, mental point 30000. She remarked that the rule against consecutive challenges was annoying, so she was glad about this. Rei thought in disbelief that he hadn't expected her to challenge him like that, then screamed for her to stop. A voice suddenly shouted, "Stop it." It was Senri. She smiled as Rei muttered, "Shit," in panic. Senri approached, demanding to know why he hadn't come to the front of the school building. Rei turned away, claiming he didn't know her. She introduced herself as Tsukinami Senri, reminding him that she had told him that morning. Rika's face grew pale with sweat. Trembling, she thought about Tsukinami's long silver hair and overwhelming presence, realizing there was no mistaking who she was. She wondered why Senri was there at that timing. Senri turned to her, while Rei thought, seriously, who's this girl really? Senri sighed and told Rei she'd lend him a hand this time, calling him darling. The display read, Saginomiya Rika versus Satou Rei and Tsukinami Senri. Rika's face tensed, and Senri's face was proud. Rei was confused. Trembling, Rika asked if Satou was Tsukinami's boyfriend. Senri hugged Rei from behind, blocking his mouth, and declared that they were passionately in love. Rika was shocked, demanding to know why someone like Tsukinami would be interested in such a bonker. Senri, letting go of Rei, asked if Rika was blind not to see how attractive her darling was and guessed that Rika had never had a boyfriend. Rika blushed furiously, insisting she had had one before, a handsome guy, and boasted about it. Senri feigned understanding, saying that once you had a boyfriend, you wanted to give advice to those weak in love. Rika took visible damage from the exchange, screaming in frustration. Rei thought in shock that she had been blown away. The band displayed, Saginomiya Rika received 12200 critical damage. Smoke rose around Rika as Senri commented that she could see her mount. Rei thought, which part of it is mount? Isn't that just fantasizing they have powers like in a manga? Senri explained that raising their stress to the max could make them see the mount and that only a true mount user could do it. Rika said that mount users were drawn to each other and that her presence must have brought Tsukinami there. She then showed off a bag, saying it was from her ex. Senri mocked it as unpopular and poor in taste. Rika asked if she was jealous, claiming the bag was worth more if given as a gift. Senri countered that being too obsessed with brands was childish and that she didn't understand Japanese people, hiding their lack of confidence with branded goods, since she had lived in the US until her first year of junior middle school. Rika took more damage. The band displayed, Saginomiya Rika received 3031 damage. Rei thought, what am I being forced to watch? Senri then said talking about America made her want to return, perhaps to her villa in Palm Beach. Rika, still huffing, trembled as she recalled Palm Beach's reputation as a luxury resort for the rich and the best place to live in the US. Rei complimented her knowledge, which caused her to take more damage. Rika insisted she hadn't looked it up because she wanted to go there, but Rei pointed out that she had, causing even more damage. Saginomiya Rika received 5290 damage. Rei thought he almost felt sorry for her. Senri knelt in front of Rika and asked where her family had a villa. Rika hesitated before answering, Karuizawa. Both Senri and Rei were stunned. Senri forced an awkward smile and said Karuizawa was nice. Then she attacked, sending Rika flying. The band displayed, Winner, Satou Rei and Tsukinami. Loser, Sao Tomrika. Senri stood proudly, clapping her hands and declaring that, as expected, mounting was fun. Rei, trembling in panic, thought, yeah, she's the devil. Then we see Senri and Rei were sitting at a table in the school cafeteria. Senri, while cutting a cake with her spoon, said straight to the point that Rei should be her boyfriend. She smiled as she spoke. Rei immediately replied that he did not want to. After taking a bite, Senri put her spoon down and asked if he didn't want to go out with her, staring at him with a sharp, intimidating gaze. Rei responded that her eyes were scary and that he would not go out with her. Changing her expression, Senri asked if he really felt that way, even though she was so cute. Rei answered that saying such things only made her seem less cute. Pausing for a moment and inhaling deeply, Senri thanked him, calling him darling, and suggested that they continued to get along well. Rei, blushing and turning his face away, shouted that he had already said he was not going to go out with her and demanded to know why she was calling him darling, introducing himself irritably as Satou Rei. He wondered aloud what she was thinking. Senri, half to herself, mused that perhaps she really liked him before quickly denying it, telling him she didn't like him at all, that his face was ordinary, and that he wasn't flashy in the slightest. Rei abruptly stood up, shouted farewell, and tried to run off, but Senri smiled, grabbed his hand, and told him to wait, her expression suddenly turning menacing. Rei cried out in pain, sat back down, and complained that he didn't understand this school, mentioning the strange mounting battles. While eating, Senri explained that mounting was an essential skill in their world, the desire to rise above everyone else, the courage to defeat opponents along the way, and the mental strength to overcome hardships. She said that this was what she was training for. Rei replied uneasily that he didn't really understand. Then, fidgeting and blushing, admitted that he especially didn't understand why she had kissed him. Senri, also blushing and laughing awkwardly, apologized for the kiss, insisting she had no choice. Rei told her not to copy him. Then, with a serious expression, Senri asked if he knew someone named Yozakura Kana. The name made Rei tense. Senri explained that her own family, the Tsukinami, and the Yozakura family were the second most prestigious after the Saginomiya. She said that one of the former conglomerates had always been at the forefront of supporting Japan, and that to graduate as an S-class representative from their school meant being at the top of the nation's generation. Rei suggested that, in order to control the rivalry between the wealthy, a mounting battle was held to compare attributes. Senri confirmed this and added that her greatest enemy was the girl she had spoken to that morning, Yozakura Kana, and that she couldn't afford to lose against her. Rei asked what that had to do with the kiss. Placing her head on the table, Senri explained that Kana had mounted her immediately upon meeting her, saying, "Oh my, good morning, Miss Tsukinami. If you have any trouble in your new life, you can always count on me, especially since you're a lonely person with no friends. I'd be happy to introduce you to some." Senri said that although she had many friends, being mounted like that made her want to get the upper hand, so she kissed Rei, who was nearby, and announced that he was her boyfriend. Rei thought to himself that he still didn't understand. Senri then lifted her head and explained that the rear mount was the most powerful mounting method for both men and women of any age. That was why she needed Rei to be her boyfriend for a while, what she called a mounting partner. Rei's blank expression made it clear he didn't understand, prompting Senri to slam her hands on the table, stand up, and demand to know what was wrong with being with such a cute girl like her. Rei shouted that she made him feel scared and anxious, and that his instincts told him not to get involved with people like her. Senri told him that it was a win-win situation for him and asked how else he was going to succeed at this school. Rei's face grew tense as he realized she was right. He had no real skills to win at this school, and mounting against the rich was certainly impossible for him. But he wondered what exactly she meant. Senri told him what he needed now was to create connections. Rei asked what that had to do with mounting, and Senri explained with an example. If he made a mistake answering a teacher's question in class and had no connections, he would be laughed at and looked down on. Rei asked if that was considered a mount, and Senri confirmed it. She added that with friends, he could turn such situations into a joke, maintaining his position in the class. She compared it to office workers excluding one person from lunch, a form of group mount. In other words, she said, a mounting battle was both an individual and a team battle, and his partnership with her would be a powerful network. Rei agreed reluctantly, but clarified that it didn't mean he was going to date her. Senri told him it was fine, they would just be temporary lovers, a mounting partnership. Rei thought he didn't fully understand, but it somehow made sense. Placing her hand on the table and standing up, Senri said they should find the other two members. Rei asked what she meant, and she explained that if they stayed as just a pair, they would be seen as a pathetic couple and mocked. A balanced group of four would create an aura that kept others from making fun of them. Rei, still expressionless, said he didn't understand, but Senri ignored him and walked off, asking if he really wanted to spend 3 years being mistreated. Rei stayed silent, thinking that he didn't want his long-awaited high school life to be filled with that kind of treatment. He decided he had no choice and followed her, saying they should set aside the details and find members. Senri declared that their fun mounting battle was about to begin. They walked out of the cafeteria and across the school grounds. Rei pointed out that they had been walking for a while without finding members. Senri replied that she was looking for them while also surveying the school, noting its wasted space. She added that any count needed to happen in a place with a reasonable number of people. Suddenly, they heard a voice saying, "I got the 6th one." Ahead of them, they saw a group of 5 girls, 3 standing, 1 sitting on a fountain, and 1 on the ground. The one in front of the sitting girl said she knew the scouted student would be an easy target. The girl on the fountain laughed, calling her pitiful, while 2 others waved and said goodbye. The girl on the ground trembled as the group left. Senri, noticing her, walked toward the girl despite Rei calling out for her to stop. Kneeling in front of the girl, Senri was met with a desperate plea for forgiveness. Smiling at Rei, she declared that this would be their 3rd member. Rei, tense, asked if that wasn't too fast, but Senri angrily lifted the girl and shouted about how they couldn't do without such a cute member. The girl protested shyly that she wasn't that cute and was short. Senri, looking pleased, commented on her great masochist mount and how dangerous she'd be as an enemy. Rei asked what that meant. The girl looked at Rei and silently pleaded for help. Rei thought to himself that he didn't understand either, but upon seeing her, he realized she was indeed very pretty. He wondered if there was anyone who could mount her based on her looks alone. The girl admitted that it had been like this when she was looking for a friend. Senri reassured her that she would help her participate in the tournament. Sitting on a bench, the girl asked if she could really be useful. Senri told her that being cute was the most powerful thing and to leave the rest to her. The girl admitted she was anxious. Approaching Rei, she shyly asked if he was also a scouted student. Her smile made Rei blush so much that he began speaking in Morse code. Senri slapped the back of his head and told him to get it together. The girl was startled, and Rei introduced himself as Satou Rei, one of the scouted students, asking for her name. She introduced herself as Shinonom Tsubasa. Rei greeted her politely, introducing Senri as the noisy one. Senri protested at being called noisy, but Rei insisted she was. Rei then asked Tsubasa why she had come to this school. Her face tensed as she said she had hoped to change herself. Rei asked what she meant, and she explained that she was timid. At first, she had turned down the offer to attend the school, having heard it was full of rich students from around the world. But she had been told that mounting battles could build mental strength, so she decided to come only to get scared again and feel she hadn't changed at all. Senri told her she could change that coming to this school of her own will meant she had already defeated her past self. With a serious expression, she encouraged Tsubasa to take a single step forward, reminding her that only she could decide whether to defeat her past self. Extending her hand, she told Tsubasa to choose, win the battle with them or be alone and lose. Tears welled in Tsubasa's eyes as she clenched her fist near her heart and declared she would win and survive at the school. Senri praised her answer and welcomed her to their mounting life. Tsubasa promised to do her best, while Rei privately thought that this was exactly the kind of trouble he had been talking about. Rei was holding a sheet of paper, and Tsubasa was holding one as well. Both of them stared at the pages in silence. Senri, watching them, announced that she had written a script for the mount battle. She asked what they thought and whether they could follow the instructions. Rei, sitting on the bench, frowned and asked what kind of terrible script it was. Senri, with a proud expression, replied that she knew it was perfect. Rei muttered half-heartedly that it was great, yes, great. Tsubasa, still staring nervously at her paper, murmured in a tense voice that she was seriously going to have to say these lines. Rei thought to himself, wondering what exactly she was going to say. Senri told her to look at her, and when Tsubasa did, Senri explained that defeating the opponent was the goal of a mount battle and asked what she would do if she couldn't say at least that much. Tsubasa protested, saying that if she did this kind of thing, she would be disliked by everyone. She added that if there were a popular mount style, even she would be surprised. Rei admitted he understood but pointed out that they had no choice and would have to do it. Senri stated firmly that they needed to collect the symbol of proof, and there was no other way. She told Tsubasa that her mission would take her to the shopping mall. Tsubasa panicked and began to walk away. Rei, still seated while Senri stood beside him, thought to himself that the shopping mall might be dangerous for Shinonom-san, wondering if she would be all right. As Tsubasa turned back, she called out to Rei, hesitated, then blushed and told him they should work hard together. Rei, also blushing, agreed. He thought to himself that since Shinonom was trying her best, he should do the same. He needed to give it his all. Senri then announced that they should head to the dining hall. Rei soon found himself holding a plate and walking toward a table where 3 boys were sitting. Glancing at them, he decided to approach. He cleared his throat awkwardly, and when the first boy noticed, Rei asked if he could sit there. The boy agreed, and Rei thanked him as he sat down. Far away, a boy wearing glasses adjusted them as he observed the group. Rei asked the table if they had any tissues. The second boy replied that he hadn't brought any, but the first boy said he might have some. Rei thanked him, explaining that he had a pollen allergy and that all the flowers there were a problem for him. While rubbing his nose, Rei thought to himself to join the conversation naturally. His mission's first step was to try to get to know them. He asked if the three had known each other since junior high school, adding that he was scouted to this school and didn't know anyone. Smiling, he thought that giving this kind of information was the second step of the mission for a scouted student with no friends. The first and second boys exchanged glances. The second boy confirmed they had been friends since they were kids, while the first boy remarked that being a scouted student must be tough. Rei thought that it was natural for them to see him as a target now. All he had to do was wait for them to take the bait. Wiping his sweat, he told them it was really tough and that they were so nice. The third boy, who had been silent, smiled and suggested that if Rei wasn't busy, they could walk around the school together after eating. Rei's face grew sweaty as he thought they had taken the bait. Just then, his band rang, announcing a mount battle: Satou Rei versus Hayama Takashi, Sasayama Goki, and Hasegawa Junbei. The three opponents were shocked, asking in disbelief if he was really the stupid one. The second boy scoffed that there was no way Rei could win 1-on-3, and they all laughed. The third boy grinned, calling it lucky for them. Rei was still sitting when suddenly Senri jumped at him, hugging him tightly and calling him her darling, asking if he had been looking for her. Rei was stunned, especially as her chest pressed against him. He protested that he had told her they couldn't do this today because he was going to walk around the school with the three guys. Senri dismissed the idea, insisting that he just walk around with her instead, leaning close to his face. Rei thought it was embarrassing. If there was a hole nearby, he would have jumped into it. The battle status displayed: Hayama Takashi 3001 damage, Sasayama Goki 5022 damage, Hasegawa Junbei 8344 damage. Senri smirked, saying it was working, while Rei thought to himself that she was a demon. Senri mockingly apologized to the three opponents. Their expressions turned tense as Rei told them that his girlfriend was too noisy, so they would have to walk around next time. All three were stunned. Senri smiled, and Rei followed with a smile of his own. The first boy slammed his hand on the table, claiming he too had once had a cute girlfriend. Senri shot back, asking who had asked and pointing out that he was single now. The boy took damage and fell from his chair, the band announcing that Sasayama Goki had received 5022 damage. His friends rushed to him. Senri laughed and told Rei to finish him off. Rei sighed and thought to himself whether this woman had any mercy. He told the group that girlfriends were expensive and restrictive, warning them to be careful if they ever got one. The three boys were overwhelmed by this final blow, and the band announced the winner, Satou Rei. Rei thought to himself that he might have gone too far, but he had gained 3 more symbols of proof, bringing his total to 6. Senri grabbed his hand and pulled him away, telling him they needed to get out of there. Rei, tense, asked what she was doing, but she just laughed and told him he could do it if he tried, and that he seemed to understand mount battling better now. Rei thought he wasn't happy about winning or being praised for it. Meanwhile, the boy with glasses observed them, recognizing Senri. At the shopping mall, on the 2nd floor, Senri mentioned that Tsubaki should be around there. Rei repeated the statement, but before either could move, a loud boom sounded in front of them. Rei froze in shock and asked what had happened. Senri, smiling, said it looked like she had succeeded. From the smoke, Tsubasa emerged, holding up her hand to show she had gotten 2 symbols of proof at once. 2 girls lay on the ground, one calling Tsubasa terrifying, and the other saying it was humiliating. Rei was shocked, wondering if Shinonome had done this alone. He turned to Senri, demanding to know what she had made her do. Senri, genuinely confused, explained that she had just told her to follow the script, something like picking up a cute skirt, complaining that the waist was too loose, and saying how annoying it was not to gain weight. She added she had only told her to say it loudly. Rei concluded that was why the 2 girls had exploded in anger. Tsubasa admitted that the eyes of those around her had been frightening and silently cursed Senri for making her say that. Senri smiled, calling Tsubasa so cute that it made one want to be protective, a protective type of mountist. Rei asked what she meant by type, and Senri explained it like a game attribute. Protective and masochist types are often mixed, unlike the natural type, and the centered and positive countertypes are tricky. Rei asked if that was even a language from Earth, and Tsubasa admitted she had no idea either. Rei asked if they were really going to keep doing this. Senri said, of course they still didn't have enough symbols of proof. She pointed to their next target. Suddenly, the glasses boy called out to them, identifying them as Tsukinami Senri and 2 scouted students. All three of them turned to him and asked who he was. He simply smiled.
By the way, if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider liking and subscribing, pretty please?